Okay, this is just a quick video. I've been getting a lot of information. I'm trying to get it like through, integrated, and out to you guys when I can, as all this stuff comes through. So there's going to be some shifts as far as how I'm working in the space, as well as my mission and purpose with the collective that I'll be sharing more about eventually. Questions come up quite a few times about why I'm measuring kilohertz instead of megahertz. So there's certain bioelectric or sonic, they're basically radio waves that help heal the body through vibration frequency. These are based off of Royal Rife's research. He was born in the 1800s. I think he passed away in the 70s. So a lot of people are using that tech to heal the body, and there are machines such as the Healy. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones I've seen. These are really effective on the physical body, but they don't work up with the spiritual energies, and I'll explain why here in a second. Those are measured in megahertz, which is 1,000,000 hertz, okay? And the reason is because they are measuring the actual frequency of the physical vessel on the vessel or in the vessel, okay? I use kilohertz because my research is based off of Dr. Valerie Hunt's research, or my work is based off of Dr. Valerie Hunt's research. So I do my measurements based off of what she discerned, and she used what was called an electromyograph. And what this did is it measured the electric output of the nervous system in the field around the body, okay? So you're basically measuring the nervous system output in the auric field, and she called it the auric field. But the thing about the auric field, it is a multi-dimensional field of energy. And our current science that we have at our disposal does not have the ability to measure, to even define other dimensions, let alone measure other dimensions. So I'm using that as the backbone measurements, but are they accurate? There's no way of knowing. I'm going off of this measurement because of Dr. Valerie Hunt's research, and she does kilohertz, and the reason why kilohertz are less, are a lower frequency range is because it's like if you were to measure the frequencies of a computer on the computer versus measuring the frequency of the output of the computer 3 feet away from the computer, okay? Does that make sense? So that's why the measurements are different. That's what I use. And I use both a physical approach to measuring and intuitive approach to measuring, because we have to use our consciousness. It's the only way to accurately be able to measure. I don't make these techniques necessarily wide known, because if you haven't done the healing work, you will very easily and most likely project onto the readings, and you'll get false readings that will falsely lead you or other people into areas that you're not quite prepared for. So I train people to use this technique when I feel like they're ready to use it, and they want to use my specific healing technique. Otherwise, there's not really any purpose for measuring this, especially if you haven't done the healing work. You don't want to use it as a comparative measure or an elitist measure. It's specifically so we know when to do activations, so that people know when they can move into different chakra system, as well as advance into the solar body, which we're going to get into a little bit here. Okay, so we're outside the range of measurement of the physical reality, so we have to measure spiritual energies through spiritual means, which is our consciousness. And like I said, I do use physical tools to measure these, so there's some sort of integration of the physical reality and our consciousness or spiritual energies. So what we're looking at is I have actually incarnated in a lot of different timelines where we had this evolved consciousness on the planet, and then there was some sort of devastating effects from misusing the higher levels of consciousness. Okay, so I'm going to go into why it's important to do the healing work, why humility is so important, and why there's specific times and opportunities for you to make these shifts. Okay, what your responsibility is when you make these shifts, and why it's important to keep that at the forefront of your mind and your intentions when you're making these ascension journeys. Okay, so let's see, Rife technology. Okay, we got into that. Okay, so people that use the machines such as the Rife machines that are based off that technology, such as the Healy, and this is the only one I've actually witnessed or measured how it affects people. These are based on the physical body. Okay, they're not based on the multidimensional field of energies. We can't measure that, so we have to do that only with our consciousness. But the healing machine works really well on the physical body and the in-body chakras. But what I've noticed with some of my clients that have used that is we did all this work to open the higher gateways to raise their frequency, and they started using the Healy, and the higher gateways started shutting down and the frequency started dropping. Okay, the other thing that can happen is people can misuse those machines and completely mess up their in-body chakras too, just by not being attuned to their own energy and the multidimensional landscape, which you need to be to really know how to navigate it. You have to do the inner work to understand how to navigate it, to use those machines properly. So you might as well do the inner work, know how to navigate it, and do the work on your own, because you can generate those frequencies with your mind, with your consciousness, without that machine. Okay, and that's what we're working on training through the academy. So be cautious with those. I'm not saying don't use them, but use them with integrity and wisdom and a higher level of consciousness. Okay, it's not a shortcut to spiritual advancement. That doesn't actually exist. So yeah, we're working with just consciousness because we don't have the technology to help people with spiritual advancement, and we shouldn't have the technology for that. Okay, so this is basically a reiteration of what I was just saying, is we have to go within to advance spiritually. Okay, you can't have a machine or a frequency give you the frequencies you need and expect you to get to where you want to go. That's not the way this path works. It has to go in. You have to go in and do the work to clear and heal. And as you do that, your nervous system actually starts strengthening, okay, so that you can handle more divine energy, more creative intelligence into your being. Okay, so we'll get into that more here, but that's the path. Okay, you have to do it through your consciousness. There's no machine on the planet, nor should there be, that will help you evolve spiritually. Okay, so we're going to get into the nervous system and spiritual advancement. So basically I work with Valerie Hunt's measurement because I was asked to work with specifically the nervous system output. Okay, so we're working multidimensionally as well, but what we are looking at specifically is the nervous system through these measurements and where they're resonating, what the strength is, if you're capable of handling more energy coming in or more multidimensionality or not. And that's why I measure in that sense. Okay, so what happens is the higher the frequency of your auric field or your energy around your body, the more divine intelligence or creative intelligence you can handle being channeled through you as a divine channel. Okay, so the stronger your nervous system is, the more tempered it is, the more energy you can pull in to harness on this plane. Okay, so that's why we have the activations, and the activations actually stabilize your nervous system so that you can continue building up not resistance, but tempering the nervous system. Each time you do another activation and you rise in frequency, then you can stabilize it with that activation or that light body, then more divine energies can come into you. And as you attune to those, then you can go up and up and up. And so I'm going to show you some maps here in a second as far as frequencies. In this physical incarnation, in this body, for what I've measured, around 5,000 kilohertz, we'll start measuring a little differently. And then around 10,000 is when you are able to activate the solar body, which we will get into here in a second. So if you were to directly plug into creative intelligence, which is, I believe, it's the 10th density range, it would completely fry out your system. So this is something that I actually went through in a past life. So this is something that I've been very cautious with working on to help people make these shifts, okay? So you have to do it slow and steady, step by step, integrating energy, stabilizing, integrating energy, stabilizing, and you just keep doing that. It's also can be when you're moving through multidimensionality and different density ranges, dimensional ranges. It can be hard on the mental space. So we do it slowly. So you're healing as you're moving up the ladder. And in that way, it's a safe, productive, healthy ascension instead of it being this really quick rise and your energy can become unstable, okay? So we're tuning and training the nervous system to accept and integrate higher frequencies so you can fully embody solar consciousness, or the solar body can be activated. The first phase is getting the frequency up to help stabilize the energy and nervous system in the body. This helps to keep the physical body healthy. So through the process of spiritual evolution and deepening one's connection to source, there's a tempering or training of the nervous system to be able to handle the increased frequencies of creative intelligence and source. Creative intelligence is held in the 10th density. This is the white misty realm where all creations are structured. It is a direct connection to source, but a direct connection to source would probably burn out your system. But you can link into the 10D. You can be anchored into that with caution. So we all have this connection if we choose. What we're working on through the ascension journey is training the nervous system to handle this higher frequency and prepare for full transmutation and the activation of the solar body. This happens in 4 stages. It's very similar to the 4 phases of alchemy. Only we're looking at experiencing this through this current incarnation. So we're beyond healing now. We're getting into pure evolution. So this is what we're looking at as far as a diagram of the bodies, okay? This is what most people are in, okay? Obviously, it's just the physical vessel. Then we have the soul, and then we have the solar body, okay? So this is the spirit body. So most people are here. People that are grounded in 5D grid, you guys are embodying the soul. And then some people are actually moving into the higher octave of activating the solar body, okay? So I'm going to go more into the solar body, but not in this class. I want this more to be about the kilohertz, megahertz, and then just this process so you guys understand it a little bit better. So taking that map, we have this is going to be an extremely crude drawing. We have the solar body, the soul, and the physical vessel, okay? So and we are graduating. So basically what happens is these 3 chakras, which I've gone into this before, are based in the reversal fields of the inverted universe. So if you have not watched that video, you need to watch that so you understand what I'm talking about here. Okay, these are all distortions. That's why most people in 3D, they only have those lower 3 activated. In the auric field, it is basically what these represent are survival, procreation, and willpower. Okay, that's why most people are in those areas of life, is because they're in these distortions. This in and of itself is a reality that we will call the 3D. Okay, then we have the heart space. This is a gateway to your soul, essentially. So when this opens, you are able to access this spiritual energy. Okay, if you can access it, then you're here. So what we would call here then is 4D. Okay, so 4D could be actually kind of this overlay. I'm sorry, this is terrible. I should redo this. This is 4D. Okay, so when these are activated, then you can have these higher spiritual experiences and awakenings. These are still running though, so you're still running in 3D, but you're making a transition into 5D here, okay? So what we're doing with the space and the healing process, it's like a hot air balloon, okay? So you're here, you can't make it through the gateway of the heart if you don't start purifying those lower 3 chakras, okay? So the blocks are cleared. As blocks are cleared, you get into self-awareness, your own healing journey, certain activations, then you can start moving up into the 4D energies, okay? But like a hot air balloon, you can't move up here until you let go of some of these woundings and until you clear some of those blocks. You can't actually see this reality. And a lot of people try not to go this path, and they just go here into some false 5D bubble without doing the work. They're still in 3D. Okay, this is, if you're unwilling to look at your wounding, do the healing work, etc., you're just going to go into this false bubble here that doesn't actually go anywhere. It's a false reality. So this is the false 5D reality where you're still running the reversal fields in the lower 3 chakras. 4D, you're still running those, but you're aware of more. So this is a great place to explore multidimensionality. This is primarily the astral field. So you can explore pretty much anything in here safely because you haven't broken through to the real spiritual realities. So these are primarily mental planes that are not real authentic spiritual realities, okay? But once you get into here, then you can start working with, and this is what I do with the Metatron's Cube activation. You're activating your link to these higher spiritual realms, okay? So we're basically opening those gateways so you can actually explore your spiritual essence and the spiritual realities, okay? That's what we do. So we break you free from these distortions down here, okay? Then when your frequency rises enough, then you can shift into the 5D system. And what happens here is these all basically drop down. So so the energies that you would normally only be able to hold through the spiritual essence, you can actually hold in the physical body because you've tuned and trained your nervous system to be able to hold those higher frequency of chakras. But this is the organic chakra system for the human being. This is not organic. This is the false inverted system reversal fields, okay? We were never meant to hold these. We're meant to transmute them and change them to pull back the inverted universe. That's the mission of the human, is to realize that these are distortions and to come into this higher self, okay? So what happens here, so you're basically rising up into this. So what was the heart field, the emerald heart of the 3D 4D system, is now the Earth star. Okay. Then we have, this becomes the cobalt blue. So your root becomes more of a blue color, which is more like the throat. Okay, so everything basically shifts down, and they still have the basic similar functions to the physical body, only it's a higher frequency range. So this is still the mental field, sacral is still the emotional, solar plexus is still mental, heart is still emotional, throat is still mental, because that's how they're overlaid, okay, in the dimensional ranges, okay. So now you have this system, the lower three chakras, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root of the yellow, orange, and red. These drop out because these are part of the reversal field. These are part of the distortions. This is where all the distortions are held in your physical body. So as you move into this system, you're completely freed of these, okay, once you move out of 4D. This isn't an easy path, and not everyone's going to choose it. You have to do the work to raise your frequency, to heal and clear, and you have to maintain that, because you can actually go back and forth from 5D to 3D, okay? If once you get here, you have to spend a lot of time stabilizing and making sure your frequency and those wounds don't come back. Because we could do all the healing in the world, and you could shoot up to solar consciousness for a day and then decide to come back down. The point is to do it slow and steady to help you get there and stabilize it and maintain it in the body, because your nervous system has to attune to those frequencies. Otherwise, you can't stabilize, okay? There's a lot of problems, instability in your energetic field, as well as the mind and the emotions, if you don't do this in a steady path, okay? So that's why I am pretty guarded about my work. That's why I charge what I charge in the space, is so that people respect it and use it with wisdom, okay? So then what we're getting in here, the 4D, 3D, 4D, 5D, that's the first phase. So now you're here, you have the upgraded chakra system. This would be anywhere from 600 kilohertz up to 10,000 kilohertz, okay? So we're working in the 5D system here. You still are going to be dealing with other people that are working with the old system in and out, and you just have to make sure you are mastering your own energy so that you stay here with these frequencies and these activations stably. And the more you do that, the more you can begin to ascend up to these higher ranges. What happens around here, 10,000, is that you can then activate the solar body. And this is a completely different thing that I will get into eventually, but that's what the golden path is about, that I've been speaking about, okay? This is a completely different reality where you activate the full solar body and you go through the full transmutation process and you actually become light, okay? So around 5,000 kilohertz, we start measuring the frequencies of the four bodies to see if they're in alignment, because sometimes the spiritual energies could be really, really advanced and the physical could be really, really low. So you can't integrate the four bodies to bring the solar consciousness into the physical if there's too much dissonance there between the four bodies. Okay, so we start measuring and looking at that around 5,000. And then there is the potential for moving into solar consciousnness at 10,000. I'm not saying that happens with everyone. It's a soul decision. It's a big decision, and there's a lot of responsibility with it. So a few years ago, I had a woman come to me who had activated her solar body. She went through the full transmutation process. Her energy was completely different, but she had a fall from grace because she made a decision that went against love. And that's part of the process of healing and clearing, is so that you stay in alignment with your integrity, your choices, your decisions, your thoughts, your emotions. Because if you don't, what will happen is an immediate and potentially detrimental side effect of a thought or an action or a belief. And so we're also tempering the mental field, the emotional field, our reactions, our ability to stay in that place of love and forgiveness as you're moving up that ladder, so that you don't have any sort of dissonance when you get there, because obviously you can get there, but what happens when you get there and you make a wrong decision? This isn't to implement fear on you guys, it's just so that you understand this is a process of self-mastery. And so when this is activated, your ability to tap into the creative intelligence, source energy, you become that in body, and you're channeling to such a large degree that a thought is a million times more powerful than someone else that hasn't done any of the work, okay? A belief or an action, you become more powerful because you're directly connected to that source of creative intelligence, okay? So it all is a process, and a slow and steady process to that reality, if you so choose. You can stay in 5D for lifetimes if you want. You don't have to move into this. This is a choice, okay? So that's what we're going into. And so part of the Golden Path will be helping you guys to tune and train in this level, so that when you choose to go here, if you do, you're ready for it. You have a lot of spiritual power in this level as well, okay? You don't have to move into this to embody that type of energy, spiritual power, but you do have to stay in alignment with integrity, because every decision, every choice you make has a more powerful outcome, okay? So you're creating the reality that you live in a more powerful way, okay? So let's go through this. So I started speaking about my client. She came to me after she had activated her light body and had a fall from grace and was wanting help. And not only from my personal experience in past lives, but also her experience showed me the importance of this humility when you're going up this, while you're going through ascension, while you're activating these higher levels of self. She had moved into such a space of fear that there was nothing you could really do to pull her out of it, and guilt and shame and lack of forgiveness. And that's what we're avoiding, is so that you get there and you're stable, so you don't make those decisions where you have that fall from grace, okay? Because it can take sometimes lifetimes, sometimes thousands of years to pull back up from that. So this isn't something you want to mess around with if you're not 100% sure you want to do it, okay? Again, I said the 5D system's fine. You can go back and forth, 3D, 5D, there's no problems. And when I set up those activations, that was the intention. So you have some room for movement, so you're not stuck in a reality that you can't handle, okay? Most likely, if you move back into 3D after you've been in the 5D, it's going to feel not very good, and you're not going to want to stay there. And that's part of the purpose of it, is so that you stay in alignment with your integrity and you get to understand that place and that space and move into that and hold and stabilize that, okay? So the light body activations, such as the Merkana, Merkara, the Diamond Star light body, they are built to help stabilize the shift. So I was shown these activations, and I didn't see the big picture, and this was intentional. It's been shown to me recently. It was intentional that I had to do, I'd get an idea or an activation that I needed to do on myself, and then help others with. And I just had to follow step by step. So I learned to trust my innate knowledge, innate wisdom. And also, so ego wasn't involved in this process. So it wasn't like, oh, I just want to activate the solar body. I wasn't aware that we were going to shift into the 5D chakras, or then eventually shift into the solar body for some of you guys. Okay, so what those are meant to do is help to stabilize your nervous system, your frequency ranges, as well as the physical body, so you can hold these frequencies in a healthy and stable way without the risk of the things coming unraveled, okay? So what happens here is most people, if they shift out of the 3D and 4D, so we have to go back to the old map here. So you have the heart, solar. So this is 3D. Once people shift out of this system, they would most likely ascend out of their body, so shed the physical body and reincarnate again with these open, all of them open. So they start at birth here, and then they have the potential to go into this, okay? But we're at a different time as well because of the planetary energies and the shifts we're making as a collective. So this shift, as far as I know, I don't know if it was possible in the past or not. I'm sure it was, because you have to move through that to get to solar consciousness. But this is the first phase. So a lot of people will just ascend out of body and they'll come incarnate here, and then they can move up, you know, a notch or two each incarnation. Okay, so the difference right now is because of the planetary and universal energies, we can do this all in body in this lifetime. And a lot of you guys, some of you guys that are looking into solar consciousness or are most likely making this shift, many of you may have made the shift in past lives before and activated the solar body and have gone through the persecution and effects of that. Some of you could have had a fall from grace as well. So those are things just to think about and consider when you're working towards this. If you have fears come up or resistance come up in the process of 5D to solar consciousness, that could be why. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so as your frequency rises, you have more access to creative intelligence and source energy. This creates an environment where you're able to create almost at will, assuming you have fulfilled your karmic energies and cleared out the blocks. So the process of healing, you're clearing the blocks, you have more access to higher frequency energies, and your thoughts don't get stopped. So part of the purpose of having a block in your field is so that you don't instantaneously create those lower vibrational realities. It's like a fail-safe mechanism for us that was structured into our fields. Okay, so as you heal and clear, those will be reformed. If you're still creating those until you get to solar consciousness, then there's nothing to hold those in place. They'll just go out and create. So we don't want to create that situation. So 3D and even 5D, you can still create those blocks, and it's actually a good thing because they're being collected and minimized. Okay, so as you learn to keep your field clear and your thoughts and your emotions clear and pure, then you can start pulling in more creative intelligence to work with. Okay, the purity of the heart and the soul is key in this path. Manipulation, passive aggression, ego, desires, wants, needs, those all must be completely cleared out of your field, your system, your subconscious mind, all of that, to make this path smoother. Okay. So staying in alignment is key. 3D system and grid can be shifted back into if you choose to stay in distortions. There is some back and forth there until you're fully cleared, and there's nothing you need to revisit in the 3D system to heal and clear. Okay. And the light bodies actually help you to make this shift back and forth a little smoother. So like I mentioned before, around 5,000 kilohertz. Sometimes I'll wait a little bit higher. We'll look at the levels, the frequency levels of each individual body. And again, this is completely impossible to measure through our current technologies. We have to do it with our consciousness. Okay, so I developed a system to do it. It's pretty accurate. It depends on my level of attunement to that person and the energies. So basically we look at the gaps between the physical, emotional, the mental, the spiritual. And if those gaps are close enough, then we can bring the solar body in. Okay. everything needs to be purified. So that's what we're looking at there. And then around 10,000 kilohertz, assuming all is harmonized and appropriate, this is when we can get into solar, the solar body, activate the solar body. So there's a few people in this space that are actually working to move into this. And basically it's a locking in of divine grace in the physical vessel, where you become a direct conduit for divine energy, full activation of the solar body, and full transmutation of the physical vessel. So once you're in the 5D system and ascending through those frequency ranges, the questions you need to ask yourself is if you are prepared for that path or not. And so once you're in the 5D, you have to decide if you're ready to commit to that. This is the cure to the reversal. So actually moving in the 5D system is really the cure to the reversal. When you open up the heart space, that's the cure. So conspiracy theories, conspiracy analysts, those people exposing those truths, those people are clearing the lower 3 chakras, and most people that are willing to look at that, okay, that's what they're doing through exposing the information, bringing awareness, and letting people see and transmute those are clearing the lower 3 chakras, okay. So that's actually clearing and healing the reversals. Basically into the 5D, up into solar consciousness, this has to be a choice, it's a commitment, and it's a intense path. All of the healing is a commitment and an intense path, and you have to learn to understand your energy well enough to be able to be out in society, in your home, with your family, doing your spiritual work and your physical work, and still maintain stable in all of those spaces, okay? So this back and forth or up, down, right, left, you need to know who you are. You don't have to go out and share it with everyone, but you have to stabilize those energies so that you can continue to progress on this path without self-doubt or fear, okay? Yeah, so I got into the story about my client that had her energy started unraveling. I was able to help her, but she was unwilling to go back to the old system, and it was really her choice, so I couldn't do anything beyond that. And we got through a lot of healing with her, but it may take lifetimes for her to kind of rebuild. I'm not sure. So at this point of activation of the solar body, all thoughts, emotions, actions have powerful and immediate effects. It is not an invincibility. It is a power that has an immediate consequence. You can create anything, even the bad stuff. The process up to the solar body activation should have initiated you into unconditional love. In this way, you're not manifesting negative realities. You can, however, rise into a distorted God complex, and this will have devastating consequences. This is the process of healing and why the healing process is so important. This is not self-sacrificial. It's in alignment with divine truth. The more your frequency rises, the more power you have in the holographic reality. Okay, so this false God complex, a lot of people that move into solar conscious, you can move into that really quickly and have these awakenings and this enlightenment. But if you take on the false God complex, whereas you're better than everyone else, or anything distorted that is lacking humility, there's a good chance there's going to be a fall from grace. And I've seen a lot of people go through that on a smaller scale. This isn't, you can reach solar consciousness with one idea, or through a healing process, the process of alchemy. You reach solar consciousness like you had a healing of some sort of wound, and you're like, oh, I understand where that came from. Then all of a sudden the wound's cleared. That's solar consciousness. But what we're talking about is the light body activation, the solar body activation in the physical, the full transmutation, okay, in this space. So I'm not 100% sure about how the golden path is going to unfold as far as in this space. But that's what a lot of us are going to be stepping into. And so this is working with the fabric of the universe to create through the mind field with unconditional love. So tempering the emotions is a lot of the healing process, so that you learn to work from that space of unconditional love, so there's no chance you cannot work from that space of unconditional love. Then it's working from that coherent space with the mind to actually create as your God self as the solar body is activated. You can begin this process in the 5D system. Your energies, your ability to manifest, all that stuff is going to be tenfold after you move out of the 3D system, but there's still more evolution here into this and mastery. Okay, it's just it's less about healing. The golden path is more about mastering. Okay, how do you take your consciousness and create? What do you do to actually precipitate realities? Okay, and that's what we're getting into, and that's the phase that I'm in, and I know a lot of you guys are moving into that as well. So as more comes to me, more downloads come, I'll be sharing more as I need to. In the meantime, we have a few more guided meditations. All of the Kibujitsu stuff will be posted, and the space itself will remain as it is, as a way to help you master your 5D energies and move up into the solar consciousness and hopefully into the solar body activation, if that's what you so choose. Okay, so that's where we're at right now, and I hope all that made sense. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Sending love.